Hello, everyone. Welcome to IT Tech Talk. I'm your host, Joel Ward, and with me is Sam. Sam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Joel.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, Sam, we've got to talk via email a little bit, but my listeners who are tuning in today do not know much about you. So why don't you give them a little background?
Sure. So my name is Sam Fonoimoana. My company is Datajoin, and I'm probably one of the only Polynesian Samoans that you'll find who loves data and analytics. And that's what my company is all about. And yeah, just been helping marketers, at the beginning of my career, and now turned it into a company. So that's a little bit about myself.
What got you into that? What made you do that as a career choice?
Well, I started off studying entrepreneurship
Okay.
back at BYU, and then I went on to the MBA program and got a finance degree. But during my time at school, I did take a couple of ISIS courses.
Okay.
And I remember my first Excel course. I didn't even know what a spreadsheet was or what a cell was, and but really that really opened up my mind. Like, oh wow, there's some cool things you could do in here. And then I took another VBA course. It's very basic intro level for for the MBA program, and I kind of took both of those classes to the back of my mind. I said, I don't know how, but I think I can use this someday in my career, how to automate things. So.
What entices you about entrepreneurship the most?
Well, for me, I think I like to think that I was an entrepreneur, or at least I had the entrepreneurial spirit before I was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Well, it seemed like everywhere that I worked at, I worked at everywhere from from like a scrapbooking company to a turbo company, as their controller, to tech companies. And I think at each place I went to, I just like the idea of finding better ways to do things. So, for example, I used to work at at this lead gen company, and I just remember having to download the same reports, from Google Analytics, and then I had to download a similar report from Google Ads, and then another one from another system, and then I'd have to do like a VLOOKUP to combine them. I said, you know what, I'm tired of of doing this, and so I just learned how to write a Python script to automate all of it. And so I think, long before I was an entrepreneur, just that drive to want to find a better way to do things. I think you could totally have the entrepreneurial spirit wherever you're at, even if you're not an entrepreneur. And eventually I'm like, you know what, I can just do this on my own full time. I found a better way to do marketing integrations. I feel like I do better than anybody else. So I'm just going to do it on my own. And I started.
So tell me a little about how you got your company started. What were the road you took to get that going?
Yeah, so I think, some entrepreneurs, I think they're bursting with ideas out of their ears. I'm not one of those. I mean, for me, it was seeing the same problem at 5, 6, 10 different companies, right? And so, I mean, this idea that data is siloed, and then there's tons of tools out there. I always joke around and say, hey, marketers got more tools than the Home Depot, right? I mean, there's so many tools today. They're all siloed. They're all good at what they do, but they're definitely not good at talking to each other. So this is a problem I saw like at 10 different companies. I saw this at One-on-One Marketing, my first tech company. I saw this at Ancestry.com. I saw this at Domo, which is a data company, and ironically, still has those same problems internally. And so for me, that's what led me. Like once I solved it for many companies, I figured, you know what, I must be the best at doing this because I'm solving it for everyone for data companies. So I'm going to go out and do it on my own. And that's what led me to start Datajoin.
So tell me a little bit about what Datajoin does for your clients. It's marketing, correct?
That's right. So my customers are B2B marketers. These are companies like Cisco, Comcast, Adobe themselves. And so they have I work with the marketing teams, and each marketing team has sub teams underneath them, like so underneath the marketing umbrella there's marketing automation, there's web analytics, there's paid search and performance marketing. So I work with them to be able to get data from the other systems directly in the tool that they work in every day. So, for example, in Google Ads, you're limited to what type of retargeting segments you can create inside of Google Ads. Basically, everyone just blasts every website visitor. That's the notion of retargeting today. But you can get you can get a lot more intelligent in your retargeting if you can get the segments that are built inside of Google Analytics or inside of Adobe Analytics. People who have come to my site more than 10 times the past week and have been to this product page and watched every video on this feature. That's really easy thing to do inside of Adobe Analytics or Google Analytics. And so you can push that segment into Google Ads with our micro integration. And so this idea that there's untapped data all around the stack, no matter what tool you're using, we're just making it easy to get to it with our micro integrations.
So when you use this data, it's used to help companies get their products sold, or help other B2B businesses like get out there and get their brands heard. Is that kind of what you're doing? Is like helping companies get their brands heard?
Yeah, I mean, most of our customers so far are enterprise marketers.
Okay.
I would say really what we're doing for the marketing team is we're helping them to be able to personalize the way they've always wanted to since the beginning of their career, but they just didn't have all the data to do it, right? So if you think of marketers today, I mean, just open up your email inbox. You probably got a ton of emails from people that, that it's totally irrelevant to what you want.
Mm-hmm.
That's because they just don't have all the right data that they need to say, you know what, I'm not going to email Joel. He hasn't really shown interest. I'm going to email Sam because he's been to my site, 10
Yeah.
times. So we're helping marketers at the end of the day to personalize to their dreams and giving them the data so that they could actually do that.
So when I think of analytics and data as far as marketing and targeting ads, like for Amazon and Facebook and all that stuff, like whenever this is gonna sound funny, but whenever I look at a product on like one time, I'll just look at one time, and then I'll get 7 to 8 ads, depending on the day, of like targeted towards me on Facebook and YouTube and stuff about that product. And even it's scary because today I was watching, and I have Paramount with ads, Paramount Plus with ads, and because I haven't decided if I want to keep it or not. And there's some good amount of shows that I watch on there. But today there was a couple things that I had looked at work on my computer, wasn't even connected to anything in my house. But I come home, I'm watching on my TV, and those ads pop up. I'm like, I looked at on my work computer, but although I'm logged in on my stuff, and it's targeting, all these ads are targeted towards me. So is that people using their analytics to find the right data? Are they using the right data to bring those products to me so I will buy them in the end?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's what they're trying to do. Now, here's the thing, like you might have just been looking at it one time to do some sort of a price comparison for a school project. So you might actually have been interested in it. So what we're trying to do is just give them even more data. Like for example, I wouldn't target you if you just came once. But if I had the data to know, like, hey, this guy has come now 3 times, he actually started the pricing form and was doing like the color tester on the shoes. I say, okay, this guy has shown like a higher intent than just kind of like casually browsing the page. But yeah, that's the end result, that you could use data. Now, I'm not a marketer, so we got to do it in a way that's not creepy, like how you said. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely for the marketer, their job is to find people who the interest is there, and a high interest, right? I don't think we just want to just bug everyone who's casually glancing, but find those who have a high interest, and try to help them to get to the finish line.
Do you find that as a pushy way of trying to make sales? Like, because it feels like it's like going to a car lot and all these salesmen walk up to you trying to sell you one car. Whenever I get these ads targeting me, it'd be fine if they were like, "Hey, we see you're interested in it. We see you've checked it like 5 times." Like you were saying, you looked at it 5 times. You've done the color picker. You've done all this stuff. We see you're interested. But whenever I like leave the site, it like sends me like Facebook, Twitter, all these ads. I'm just like, but I looked at it one time. One time. And I put it in my list, my wish list sometimes, or on my cart, and I'm like, maybe I'll buy it later, or then I delete it, and it still sends me the ads. So in my opinion, it's like it feels like a pushy salesman trying to sell me
Yeah.
something. I'm just like, I don't know how you're talking. If it's like if I visited the site a couple of times, I did what you said, and then it's like, oh, that makes sense. But it was like right off the bat, you're like trying to sell me something that kind of is off-putting in my opinion.
Yeah, it totally is. I think, once again, because in Google Ads, it's very limited in the pixel. They could only see, okay, this person, went to this product page, right? And so unfortunately, that's all they have to go off of. And they start blasting the heck out of you for some sort of cadence, right? Like, okay, we'll just blast them for the next 2 weeks. And up to 8 times we'll blast them. And so what we're trying to do is help change that paradigm shift to like, no, we can give you better data so you can fish out the high intent customers because you're off-putting, the rest of the people, like how you just said. It's really hurting your brand when you market that way. So why not just be able to focus on those who are actually interested, and do it in some sort of a responsible, timing. And so for us, like that's our goal, is to give marketers like, you know, all the data that they need to be able to do this. And I think it's going to be in their best interest because I mean, you really said, I'll say it one more time, off-putting, right? I feel like it dilutes consumer brands, right? Every time that they're like, even for me, I'm so tired of spending 3 minutes every morning just like trashing emails, right? Even though I thought I unsubscribed and all that, right? So that's our vision. That's our goal, really, is to give marketers the data that they need to find those who are actually interested in buying your stuff. So that's one of
Sounds like
my that's one of my ad taglines that we just did this week. So
it
yeah.
sounds like a cleaner way of marketing, to my opinion, because it's like you're not pushing things down and making people just instantly like, oh my goodness, now I gotta buy this. You're going after people with that have shown interest, like actual true interest in the product or in the site. So that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about when you started the company and how long you've been doing this.
Yeah, so I started back in summer of 2016. That's when I first went on my own. I started as a consultant, so just doing a lot of data engineering and data warehousing projects for marketing teams. And I went to try to raise money probably about a year or 2 years after that, so 2018. And although we were generating some decent revenue, the investors, the VCs, they weren't interested in a services company. They're interested in SaaS. And same for me. I was noticing that although the money was good, this wasn't really something that's scalable, right? I mean, every company had a slightly different spec. And so what I started thinking was, what if we just ditched all of the ditched all of the dashboards, ditch all of the charts and the Excel reports, and we just went straight to the plumbing and the data integration itself. Like, what if we could just move the data from one system to another, and the people don't have to go anywhere else. They can just log into their tool. All the data is sitting right there in their home, and they can use it and get the insights that they need. And so that's how we pivoted towards these micro integrations.
That's
So
awesome. That's awesome. And you've seen the revenue increase with that integration?
yeah, so we started off doing Salesforce to Adobe Analytics, and we won this competition that Adobe put on for launch extension. We won second place in that contest. And so we were focused on that for our first couple of years. And then now we've got about 10 different micro integrations. Our revenue has definitely surpassed what I was doing from a consulting side. I was able to raise our seed round, a few months ago, just this summer. So I've got more resources than ever. We're headed into a little bit of it's a little bit of an uncertain market, but I feel like we've got a good team, we've got resources, and we've still got a great use case, especially going into down market where every dollar has to count, basically. So
Awesome. Where are you guys headquartered and how many employees do you employ currently?
yeah, so we are remote, although most of us live here in Utah. We're right
Okay.
around, right in the Provo, Utah area. And although we have employees in other states, we're up to 13 employees right now, which is great. I mean, for me, it was just me, myself, and I, and
Yeah,
and maybe a couple other people for 3 years, but that's where we're at now.
that's
Yep.
awesome. So you're based out of Utah and you've been running that from there, like it's your headquarters there for the longest time, or have you kind of moved around? Because I know you said you've gone to different places and worked different jobs. Have you always lived in Utah, or have you moved around and the company just settled in Utah?
Yeah, so I'm from Hawaii. That's where all my family is from.
Okay.
So I spent 3 years, out in Hawaii. I wanted to give my kids a taste of the island life, and be closer to family. So I try to grow it out there. man, I really miss my meetings in my truck on the beach, and then I go surf right after I'm done with me.
Nice. Sounds like
Um,
actually sounds like a perfect kind of meeting.
oh, that it is. It's the perfect kind of medium. So, um, anyways, it was tough to expand out there. I kept trying to get customers, back home in Hawaii, but it was a lot easier. They just kept coming to me, on the mainland, as we say back in Hawaii, right? And so I ended up having to move back here. I did go to school here at BYU, just
Okay.
down the road. Um, and yeah, it just seems like the tech community here in Silicon Slopes, as we kind of call ourselves out here, is awesome. I mean, we just had our summit last week. There's I don't know how many.
So is Silicon Slopes the Utah version of Silicon Valley?
Yeah, it's kind of like our self-dubbed. That's like our self-dubbed title right there. Silicon Slopes. I'm like, man, I wanted to build Silicon Surf, back in Hawaii on the North
Right,
Shore,
right, right.
but there was only just just me, myself, and I out there for the tech companies. But Utah's great. I mean, there's a great tech community here.
So I wanted to ask you, actually, I think you kind of just answered that. What is and you I feel like you just answered that. What is like the Silicon Valley version of Hawaii? Is there really much tech startups in Hawaii, or is it kind of like a very non-existent system?
Yeah, so I'd like to go back there one day. I mean, so what I was doing while I was out there is I was teaching at the BYU Hawaii, that campus right there in Laie on the North Shore. I was teaching a marketing analytics course, trying to give back a little bit to the community that my family is from. And yeah, I really had dreams I still do, of building out a tech community. It's so expensive to live on the North Shore. And a lot of my people, the Polynesians, we're getting priced out of, even living in our own backyard is kind of sad. But I feel like if we're able to build a tech community there, and there's definitely talent. I mean, while I was there, I met a few individuals. I mean, we were I we were working together, doing SQL, doing Python for other companies here on the mainland. And I'd like to build it out there so that a lot of the families, they have another way of earning income out there, other than the local wage. And there's a few of us that make it to the NFL and can support their families that way. But I'd like to open up another avenue through tech, where we could have mainland wages, which we probably need San Francisco wages, to be honest, to survive in Hawaii. But it's definitely better than North Shore wages. It's so bad out there right now. So
So Hawaii, is it? It's not a very Well, I'm trying to. It's not a very big tech community. There's like I've never been to Hawaii. I've always thought of it as like just like an island life. Is it? What's the business scene down there? What's kind of like the overall revenue of like business? What am I trying to say? What's the main source of revenue? Is it like it's not tech? Is it like
tourism, 100%
tourism?
tourism.
100% tourism.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely tourism. So just with all the people coming to the islands, and so I had one customer out there, the Polynesian Culture Center. They take in, I don't know, like millions of visitors a year.
Okay.
And but as far as tech companies that are starting there, we also have worked with Hawaiian Airlines, who's based out there. Well, yeah, there's just not that many. There's not that many tech companies that are sprouting up over there. I mean, most of them, head to the mainland where it's cheaper. There's more resources, in the mainland. I mean, I had to come back to the mainland, right, because of that. So,
Yeah. So
uh,
in Utah with the silicon startup there, where is there like a kind of centralized area where you kind of have that like whole like scene of tech? Like is it kind of like Silicon Valley where they have like that whole like section like buildings in all one corner, like all
oh
these
yeah,
startups?
yeah. So if you were to come here to Utah, I don't know if you've been here before.
Never been to Utah. I've never been to that side of the country. I've been more Eastern Shore kind of guy.
Oh, right on, right
Yeah, yeah.
on. Yes, I mean Utah. If you're flying, it's beautiful. We're right. We're still within the Rocky Mountains. So
Okay.
if you were to land in Salt Lake and you drive south about 30 minutes, you'll come to the border of Salt Lake County and Utah County, and it's a place that we call Point of the Mountain. And once you get to the Utah Valley side of Point of the Mountain, you will see Adobe, you'll see Workfront, you'll see Symantec, you'll see Ancestry.com, all of these tech companies. Like that's where they congregate, just right there around the point of the mountain. It's horrible traffic, but it's an awesome tech scene. That's where they all congregate. So
Awesome, awesome. I've always thought like you think like Western areas, like you don't think like tech startups. You always think like everybody always thinks of Silicon Valley, but it's like there's so many places, different places where tech starts up. It's not just in Silicon Valley.
oh yeah. No, I think there's a kind of a natural entrepreneurial spirit here in Utah. I mean, you got like the early pioneers, like with WordPerfect and Novell,
Hmm.
back in the 80s and 90s. And then you had the next wave with Omniture, which got bought by Adobe. So you have these great powerhouse companies in this culture, dude. Like everyone here wants to do a startup here in Silicon Slopes, and we just had our summit last week. It was gangbusters. I mean, we had executives from Salesforce, Facebook, AWS. I mean, we've got celebrities speaking, and so yeah, there's definitely a big scene here. Everyone is very smart. I think that's part of the culture here in Utah. I mean, it's education. So you'll find traditionally you've been able to find really smart for really cheap,
Hmm.
and people who have a do it yourself, can do attitude out here.
Awesome.
So
Yeah, it's so bizarre. It's like when I even travel around the Eastern Shore and see these, like, I think when I went to Ohio one time, just seeing a giant IBM campus out there, it's just insane. It's like this is the middle of nowhere, and there's like a giant building here with this giant IBM logo on it, and it's like I'm in the middle of nowhere, like, but some of the best parts is like it's in the middle of nowhere, but there's so much opportunities in those places. Like you got like where I was at, I remember I think it was in like maybe an hour or 2 from Columbus. Like, it was like or whatever the heck, in Ohio is Columbus, I think it's Columbus. But there's like it was so bizarre. Like, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I was traveling through there. I was trying to get somewhere, and I was like, it was like I had the big giant Bob Evans farm and then IBM, and there's a bunch of other ones. I'm just like, "This is so bizarre." But it's interesting to see that because it's like my brain, like, years ago, I was, like, always like, "Oh, Silicon Valley, that's where I need to be because it's, like, it's the hub of, like, tech." But that's not true. It's like you got Texas, you've got, you're saying Utah. I mean, there's so many probably more places that I haven't even tapped into that have, like, a tech startup. Like, even New York has, like, a bunch of like, I watched a lot of videos on these, like, small tech startups that are starting out in these little apartments and then growing to big office buildings. It's insane.
yeah. No, I mean, I just think today with the proliferation of data, I mean, I never took a computer science course, but I learned it all online, either through like Udacity, Coursera, YouTube videos, and I've been able to build a business, that does data engineering, but I don't have any formal education in that. And so I think tech can go anywhere, is what I'm trying to say. Like you can learn the skills needed online. You could talk to people like through Zoom online more than ever. So it's bound to go everywhere. It's going everywhere. So
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought it was interesting you mentioned Coursera. It's one that actually co college courses I took. It wasn't, I wouldn't consider it college. It's an online course. I used it to get my IT certification. So it's like and actually Google was the one that offered that certification. So I was like, I took that. I'm working on my project management through Google, like all these different courses. And a lot of people think you have to go to prestige school to get these certifications or to get these, um, um diplomas, but you can go right from your computer and take a course on through all these prestige schools through Coursera. And it's like hearing you say that, like, oh, I took all these courses. I'm not, it's really cool because I never went to a prestige school, and yet I have all these skills and stuff versus like from like different certification courses I've taken over the a span of my years. And it's like it's really interesting to hear someone else saying I use Coursera as well, and I got the like tools I needed from there. It's so cool that people actually do use like companies like that to, or even like course companies like that to get the knowledge they need.
oh yeah, I mean, it definitely helped me to solve the problems I was trying to solve at the time in my work. And now today I've got a dev team where they all study computer science. I always tell them, I say, hey, don't laugh at my code now. I was able to get a bunch of customers, Fortune 500 customers, with my code, so it works. And now you guys are gonna make it better, right? But you could totally learn it just like you're doing with your certifications. So
Yeah, and the company that I actually looked at before I was actually getting into web development. I took a couple other courses on web development from another company, but Treehouse, I don't know if you ever heard of Treehouse, but Treehouse was one of those ones that was like the biggest ones, and people were like, "Hey, if you want to get into web development, Treehouse, go to Treehouse." And it all came down to price. And I remember getting my certifications from somewhere else, but it was like I remember when I was in the midst of like doing the tech jump, and I was like, I want to do web development, I want to do IT, and it was like where to go to get all this information to get certified. Because I mean, I learned a lot of stuff from YouTube and from like different sources online, like GitHub and all that stuff. So it's like I learned all this stuff, but now I want to get certified. So it's like, where do I go? And there's so many like so many different options out there for like getting certified. And there's like some that are like really cheap, and then there's some that are really expensive. But if you find the common middle ground to find somewhere that you can get these certifications or even a diploma through, like I think you can actually get real diplomas on Coursera. I've never gotten one, but I know you can get like there's like Harvard and I think other schools on there that you can get like diplomas from. And it's just bizarre that you can go somewhere. And I think there's actually, for those listening who are interested in going to Coursera, there is actually I think financing available for certain people on Coursera. So it's like there's so many options for people to get into the realm, like say like, I want to do tech, or I want to do project management, or I want to do something else. There's so many options out there versus going to a big school.
oh yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, I'll probably never forget, lifetime value of money and EBITDA, from my finance courses. But I picked up a whole new slew of skill sets, just online. And so I think that's the beauty of today's technology and tools. You can literally do anything. I think the last thing I would add to it is as you're learning it, I mean, I basically learned the skill sets and put it to use right away, right?
Mm,
Like back in my first example, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of downloading this thing manually. So I took the Python course. I'm like, all right, I'm building out my script. I'm going to host it on this server, set up the cron job, boom, done. Like I actually apply it right away so that I don't forget it and it sticks. And I've just done that so many times now that, hey, yeah, I can do Vim pretty good. I can do Vim pretty good, So
awesome. Well, hey, we have a few minutes left. I want to ask you one last question. Is there something that back in the day that you wish you would have known, or no, sorry, I asked that wrong. Is there something now that you've learned now into, what you've learned over the course of the years you've been doing this marketing stuff that you wish you would have known first starting out, like back when you were doing all these other different companies and working for them doing analytics?
yeah, no, that's a good question. I think it's definitely been different going out on my own. When I used to work for other companies such as Domo, I felt like I was on top of the world there. I was the director of marketing analytics. I used to speak at their conferences. Long lines of people want to talk to me after. When I went out on my own, it was different. I didn't have that. I don't have that logo, that brand name, that prestige behind me anymore. And I really had to learn how to sell better and how to deal with people better, which is its own sport. And so if I can go back to day one, Sammy, I would say, hey, you may think you know how to sell and convince people, but trust me, you don't, man. Like if I was you, I would read these three books. I would read the Challenger Sell. I would read Gap Selling by Keenan, and I would read Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Like read those three books. It really talks a lot about how to, those people skills, how to talk to people, how to negotiate, how to sell. So that's the one thing I would tell myself going back to day one.
Awesome. I am like really excited that you got to come on the show. So we have a few minutes left, but I'm going to real quick let everybody know there is a new website for IT Tech Talk. You can visit that at podpage/IT tech talk, and you can check it out. We've got a whole bunch of new stuff on there. We have our sponsor page and stuff. I really am excited to launch it. Actually, I think it launches tonight because I've been working on it. It's kind of up now. It's kind of not finished, but it'll hopefully be done by tonight. I have a whole bunch of stuff, so I'm really excited for everybody to check that out. For those who support the show, thank you so much, and I'm really excited to be launching new content for our supported listeners. So thank you so much, and Sam, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Joel. Really
You're welcome.
appreciate it, man.